I'm Jen Schrader, and this is Behind the Springs, conversations with the people working for you in Colorado Springs, Olympic City, USA. Hello, everyone. If you have traveled in or out of the Colorado Springs Airport, and I hope you have, you know that it is such a great experience. Parking's less expensive, the lines are shorter, and it's just kind of more relaxing overall. And I have some great news. The experience is going to get even better. So I have Greg Phillips, who is our aviation director at the Colorado Springs Airport, and Deanna Stoddard, am I saying that correctly? Correct, yes. An airport design and construction manager with us today. And they're going to tell us about something called Elevate COS, a little play on words, which is really fun and means bigger and better things for Colorado Small Airport. So tell us a little bit about the modernization program today. And then Greg, want to start with a little bit about the airport in general, because folks may be tuning in and wanting to know a little bit about it. So thank you both for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're thrilled to be here, Jen, and thanks for giving us the chance to talk about the airport and to talk about this project because it's a big deal.
It's a big time deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the airport, I think most people know that the airport is a big piece of property. It's 7,200 acres, and on the commercial terminal, we have 12 gates. And our terminal's getting pretty old at this point. It's almost 30 years old. So you may recall, and our listeners may recall, that we had a fire in the terminal in 2018. As a result of that, we have upgraded the entire public side of the airport, but we haven't done the concourse yet where all the gates are. And so that's what we're doing now.
And it's beautiful.
COS.
It is beautiful what you've done on the, what did you call it, the public side?
Yeah,
so before you go through
side,
security is almost a totally different airport than after you go through. Not that it's not, still a nice experience, but like you said, just dated, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're, I gotta say our insurance company's not real happy with us, but they help pay for all the upgrades. And that means we didn't have to raise our costs for our passengers. And so there is some good that come out of it, if you want to think of it as the silver lining.
Right.
And so, yes, the public side looks great. And we really are just honored to hear the compliments that we hear from people time and again about that here. But we need to do that to the rest of the terminal, and that's what we're doing now. So we're kicking off this project, and yes, you mentioned it. It's called Elevate COS, and it's going to be it's a great project, and we're already into it now.
That's what I was going to ask Deanna. So tell us a little bit about, there are various phases of the project. And then I know people are always curious to know how long it's going to take you because we're all impatient. And the biggest question of all is just what will people see in terms of improvements?
Sure. So I'll start by reiterating what Greg said, that we hope to elevate our passengers' experience. And we also seek to maximize our funding sources so that there will be no cost to the taxpayers for any part of this project.
That's a big deal. Thank you for mentioning that, because
Yes.
people are always curious, how are we paying for these things?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we'll be utilizing FAA funding sources, passenger facility charges. Basically, users of aviation are the individuals who will be paying for this project, no taxpayer funding. The concourse modernization, or Elevate COS, kicked off last month in early September. It is expected to be a 3-year project. We'll be doing it in phases. Anyone who's flown out recently, you will have seen the containment walls around some of our hold rooms. That phase 1 and 2, as we're calling it, will last through next fall.
Okay.
We'll see a phase change right around the end of February. We'll be moving to the next hold rooms that are impacted. Right now, gates 2 and 4 are closed. We'll be moving to the north of that, gates 6 and 8, as we move around the concourse.
So there won't be a time when it feels super different to passengers. I mean, the airport's still open for business. Everything, although you'll see some of that work going on, won't feel too differently otherwise.
Correct. It will be business as usual.
Okay.
You will see some temporary walls. You'll hear some noise. We'll try to keep it down, and we are trying to maximize our night work and limit our impacts to both our airline partners, our tenants, and the passengers. But yeah, so you'll know it's going on, but hopefully there'll be minimal impacts to everyone.
And what are we looking forward to? Like, what will the concourse look like when we're all finished? And what are the goals of the project?
Sure. Like Greg said, we did the public side a few years ago, so we're hoping to kind of match what we did there. basically bringing things to standard, ADA code, building code, refreshing and remodeling our soffits, our windows. There'll be new carpet. I personally love that carpet in there, but it is very dated. So brighter restrooms, just kind of basically think of a good facelift, if you will, of everything that's in there currently, a holdover from the mid-90s. In conjunction with Elevate COS, we also have some of our concessionaire improvements that'll be taking place during the same time, both retail and food and beverage improvements.
So, I mean, just an overall, like you said, better experience, hopefully, for the passengers.
It is. We recognize that Colorado Springs Airport is sort of transitioning from a very small-ish local airport to a regional airport that serves a larger community. We want to make sure that we're providing the best possible experience to our users, to our tenants, to our own staff. And so this is one step toward that. And Deanna mentions our concessions will be upgrading. We have new contracts with our concessionaires, and you're going to see some pretty cool new restaurants coming in. We can't announce them quite yet, but they're coming. And that's
They'll be coming
exciting.
throughout the project, or all at the end, or kind of throughout
the
Throughout in
project.
tandem.
Okay.
Yeah. But our goal is the airport should represent the Colorado Springs and Southern Colorado communities. And when you land here in the gateway to our community, it ought to look like our community. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing that with the concessions. We're doing that with sort of opening up, focus on some sustainability initiatives, and Deanna can talk about that. And also, we're focusing on accessibility. And that's important for us because look at our community. We have a strong military base with 5 military bases here, and that means that we have disabled veterans, that we have veterans that have restricted mobility. We need to take care of that and recognize that in our community. We're also the home of the Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And so, with that, we should be the standard bearer. We should carry that torch for accessibility at the Colorado Springs Airport. And that's something we're going to do with the updates to the concourse that we're in the progress of right now.
That's really important. And like you said, talk a little bit about sustainability, because that's a word that gets said a lot, but people don't really understand. What does that mean for this project in particular?
Sure. So it's definitely a criteria for our funding eligibility in terms of discretionary grants. That is something that they want to see as part of the projects they're awarding funding to. So for Elevate COS specifically, we'll be installing new windows with better energy efficiency, electrochromic glazing that can self-tint, if you will, depending on the sun.
Oh, cool.
Right? So energy savings there.
The windows are plugged in.
Right. No, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So smart.
Absolutely. We're updating a lot of our mechanical systems, new boilers, HVAC, just getting better efficiency than what we would have. And we're trying to seek as many lead components as we can, not quite seeking the full certification, but as much of that as we can incorporate as possible.
And people really, those are the things you won't see, but you will benefit from, in other words. Yes. Okay. And you mentioned too, Greg, kind of, more or less the secret is out about the airport in a good way, right? I mean, everyone's starting to hear about how wonderful it is to fly in and out of COS. And so you do have to sort of keep up with that growth. Can you talk a little bit about growth in general at the airport?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody knows, of course, that Southwest Airlines started service in March of 2021. Since that time, we've just seen our numbers go, sky high. Mm-hmm. And so we started with Southwest with 5 destinations. In July of this year, we added a 6th destination, and that's Long Beach. So again, just kind of in quick order, we have Chicago Midway, we have Dallas Love, we have Denver, and connects you into their network. We have Las Vegas, Phoenix, and now Long Beach. And so, it's really great connections into their system. But beyond that, of course, United, American, Delta, and this summer, Delta added 2 new routes with Atlanta and Minneapolis. United serves Denver and Chicago, and American serves Dallas-Fort Worth. We now have 2 new carriers, though, that started this summer, and Avelo Airlines in May. Say hello to Avelo. And then Sun Country started service to Minneapolis in June. So, we're cranking it up. And it's our intent to sort of keep the full court press to bring more service in. And what has been really the best part of adding new routes is not just adding the routes, but seeing people actually use them. And, I say this all the time. If you want to see the airport grow, use the airport. And that's how we bring in more service, because that's what the airline sees. Oh, Colorado Springs added new service, and they are filling up the airplanes. Well, let's think about it, too. So we continue that effort. We're proud of the growth that we've seen, but we want to stay a step ahead of it. And that's what some of the projects, Elevate COS, and some of the other projects we're doing are focused on doing, is staying ahead of the growth so we don't lose the experience that makes the airport special, that makes the airport different than a large hub airport like our friendly neighbor to the north.
Right. Yeah. Our friendly neighbor that we don't name very often. No, it's really true. So what you're saying is important, because Elevate COS is what you're all doing, but you really can't do it without the travelers. So you do need them to, while they're looking at our neighbor to the north, to also check out COS, and compare.
Half-full airplanes don't stay in the community very long.
Right. And you've seen that happen where airlines have come and gone. But for the most part, it's looking good right now, you feel?
It's looking great.
Okay.
Looking great, yeah.
So keep it up, Colorado Springs.
Our numbers, our passenger numbers in 2022 were the highest that we've seen since the year 2000, more than 2 decades.
Wow.
And in 2023, we're going to set another record. So we're thrilled at that, and it is fun to go through and see the terminal busy.
Yes, so keep that going. Anything else you want people to know about the project, or any other ways that it will affect them, or anything you need passengers to be aware of?
Do you want to talk about accessibility a little bit and just some of the things that we're doing?
Sure. Like Greg said, it's a very important component to our community. We do want to reflect that. We are updating our bathrooms to meet current code. We will have a family companion care restroom with adjustable adult changing tables. We're trying to not only meet requirements, but also exceed them. We'll be installing a hearing loop in each of our hold room areas, which will help with assisted hearing devices. And trying to think what else.
Well,
probably just in general wider access, right?
Yeah,
yes.
It certainly be lighter, brighter. We're getting rid of the soffits there, so it's easier to just see and navigate. We're getting rid of the carpet in the walking area, and so that's easier for wheelchairs. And I would mention that through the accessibility task force that Doug Price and Visit COS put together, I sit on that task force, and we're contracting with an organization called Wheel the World. And Wheel the World will come to the terminal. They will go through the terminal, and they will tell us from their eyes, people with restricted mobility, wheelchair bound, what we're missing.
That's
because,
great.
We see it with our eyes, but we need to see it with their eyes. And so they're going to do that, and that'll give us, I think, some other ideas about things we can do now and for the future. And then they have a website, and they put sort of what the accessibility looks like at the airport so that the savvy travelers that use their website can look before they get to the airport and say, oh, I need to do this here, this will work for me there, and how they work. What we find and what we hear is that airports are one of those places, airports and airlines, and particularly the aircraft themselves, tight little metal tubes, are sort of pinch points for people with restricted mobility. Mm-hmm. And so we want to do what we can to help with that and to help focus on ways to help all our travelers get through the terminal, through the airport. And I'll mention one other thing. It's not specifically related to the Elevate COS, the construction project, but there's another program we're implementing, and it's called the Sunflower Program. And it's a national program, but in addition to people with restricted mobility that are visible, handicaps or disabilities.
The invisible.
They're the invisible disabilities and handicaps. And so
I've been pleased to hear more conversation around that lately.
Yeah,
yes.
so It's a lanyard, and if a person chooses, they can wear that lanyard, and that means, hey, I may need a little help, but I don't really want to shout it to the world. And then our people will be, and some of the staff will be trained specifically. Our ambassadors will be trained to recognize that and to go up and say, hey, how can I help you?
Right.
We need to do that. We want to make sure we're doing that.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks for expanding on that. And I really want to encourage people to visit elevatecosairport.com because it's a great resource. And if you're curious about some of those things that we mentioned today and want to know more about the project, that's a great place to go for more information and to keep updated right on the phases. Yes. I know that they'll probably have photos and updates on there. And then COS Airport is just a really fun account to follow no matter what social media platform you prefer. They have beauty shots because our airport is beautiful in itself and the views are amazing, but then also just some great information and updates there as well. So we want to encourage people to stay up to date, and thank you both for coming by and sharing. And it sounds like you have a busy couple of years ahead of you. But exciting.
It never slows down.
No.
Airport, I like to say, is a construction site where airplanes land and take off.
It's kind of true.
It's very true. Yes. Thank you for having us.
Well, good luck to you guys. And
Thanks,
thank you
Jen.
all so much for listening today.